I hope everyone is safe and at home, taking proper care and precautions against COVID-19. Well, in this lockdown situation, before we start, I had this thought that when I see these empty streets and social distancing, I realize that it's a God way of telling us to rehabilitate and repair our environment, maybe our world also. So, on this very deep thought, I, Architect Abhishek Srivastava, would like to welcome all of you to be part of No Lockdown on Education, a festival. This is an initiative by Center for Design Education, Vivekananda Global University. Ours is an online series of educational webinars, expert sessions, and competition. Center for Design Excellence aims to become one of the premier institutes for architecture and design education in the country, where we try new teaching methodology and we are trying to revolutionize the way we impart knowledge in this department. So today the topic of the session is Design Indonized, and the format will be presentation by each panelist for 10 minutes, starting with introduction by session moderator, and the last 10 minutes is for question and answer. There are a few basic rules for the session. Everyone is expected to put their microphone on mute mode unless asked for. Prashant sir, please change the slide. In case of any queries or question, please raise your hand, or you can raise your question in the chat box addressed to the panelists. Coordinator of these sessions are visible on your screen as Architect Abhishek Srivastava, that is myself, and Vinay Singh, and moderator is as Architect Shamini Shankar ma'am. Question and answer session will be at discretion of session moderator or the coordinator. Now, first and foremost, let me introduce today's session moderator, eminent architect Shamini Shankar ma'am, who runs a practice SS plus PD architect since 1987. This is a boutique design firm. Their practice believes in socially conscious architecture, and over the years they have done a large number of projects which are naturally environmental friendly and sustainable, and have been case study for students of engineering and architecture. Personally, Umang School is my favorite. I love the design. She has been involved with Design Educational Institute for over 2 decades as a critic, teacher, and mentor. She is also the founder secretary of IIID Jaipur chapter, also the editor of IIID National Magazine Inkscape, and earlier the editor of IIID Inside Magazine. So, well, she believes and advocates the need for experts to take time out toward mentorship and critical thinking process by engaging with young people in studio and places of work or otherwise. So please welcome our moderator for today's session, Design Indonized, Architect Shamini Shankar ma'am. I request ma'am to take over and start the session. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, please.
Where is Tulika?
I'm here.
She's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
So have you switched? Yeah, okay, hi. And Malik and Kirti are there. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to set the context for which we will get our expert panelists to start, voicing their opinions. And I look at this primarily as a conversation between these experts.
Sure.
And what I see amongst us on this panel is that we are all Indian. And we want to belong to which we can relate to. Indian in thought, Indian in emotion, Indian in imagery, and English in word. And in what I say, English in conversation. So I just want to respond to one thing, that we have Indian sensibilities. Many of us may have a universal appeal or believe in universal appeals through these Indian sensibilities, but each of us within our professions, which I will use the term craft, not craft as in terms of a craftsman, but craft as techniques in our own profession. Like Kirti will have her own craft, that is her own technique. Anu Mridul will have his own craft, the way he deftly handles space. So will Tulika, who has been an academician, a researcher, a practitioner. So she has an all-encompassing, and likewise everybody else, Anu also has the same. So what I'm trying to see is what really is so-called identity. Are we looking at community? Because these are special identity factors amongst us. But deeply rooted in our Indian context is the layerings of history, in which mostly we cannot ignore our context, imagery, and style. So this is a uniqueness of our identity, really. And this is what we are going to be discussing. And many of us who actually maintain our so-called nativity or our Indianness, and yet have this universal appeal, which we would like to continue to seek in a more realistic portrayal of our country and Indianness and what we portray outside India. So really we are looking at attitudes that define an Indianized characteristic which really epitomizes the soul of India in our characters, our environment, in our in us as individuals and our community. So what really distinguishes us from this Indian sensibility versus universal appeal? And I would like to open this out to our panelists after I introduce each one of them. So I'd like to take architect Anu Mridul. He's an internationally awarded architect and he has a variegated palette of projects in India and the US. And he's an alumnus of Chandigarh College of Architecture. And his practice has been set up since 1985. Mridul's practice is an interesting mix of a variety of typologies: institutional, public housing, religious, and he's also an exponent of green architecture, which he believes his practice has always believed in that. So it's just that it's now greater visibility because everybody is talking about green. So we are also assessing our own projects in that manner. But many of us actually, and he particularly has talked about this. So he believes that traditional construction and design practices is what we are endowed with, and that can be innovated upon and applied to contemporary designs to achieve eco-friendly, sustainable architectural creations that do not guzzle on energy. So his projects are an extension of heritage and contemporarized traditional practices to make them timeless. That's interesting. Thus modern and futuristic. So this is exemplified in one of his award-winning projects, the stepwell called Birka Bavdi, which all of you should have a look at. And he's also got awards for a museum for Mahatma Gandhi's, museum for Mahatma Gandhi in Jalgaon, Maharashtra. He's got 5-star GRIA ratings, LEED Platinum ratings, and he's also got a citation from UNESCO. He's passionate about water heritage. And this is what really takes him abroad, because he does a lot of these workshops and he communicates about open stepwells and water heritage to a lot of to the audience outside. He has been constantly interacting with students and delivering talks at various forums and institutions in India, Australia, and UK, at Bartlett School of Architecture, Kingston University, some of them, MIT and Aga Khan Program for Islamic Architecture, University of Pennsylvania, University of Oregon. And this list goes on. He's talking of delivering lectures at Parsons, at Spitzer School of Architecture, and University of West Hartford, Berkeley. So that's really a tremendous amount of involvement and commitment. So Mridul was designated Leader of Sustainability for the Executive Master of Natural Resources Program for the Virginia Tech University, a course designed for mid-career panelists. Also, what's interesting is he also is a chairman of Rupayan Sansthan, a follow institute founded by the noted anthropologist Komal Kothari. He also, along with his wife, has co-founded the Jodhpur Law, an initiative to promote centuries-old traditional crafts of the region through workshops and training. And Mridul is also a recipient of awards in Istanbul and Vienna. So this is really a lot. Mridul, I think I can write a book on all this. So, we'd like to do this. Abhishek, I'm digressing here a little bit because I should have actually gone according to, my headings.
No, ma'am, it's all right. We'll start with Tulika, ma'am.
But now I'll start with Tulika. So Tulika she's the director of Indian Institute of Crafts and Design and a researcher and educator in the fields of craft and design. With a PhD in the history of arts, that is dress and textiles from the University of Glasgow, MSc in textiles and clothing from Lady Irwin College, New Delhi, India. Her association as a PhD fellow with the Center for Textile Research, Copenhagen, Denmark, and a short course in archaeological textiles, quite interesting, from the University of Oxford, UK. She has amassed experience as a researcher in this field. She started her career as a designer in 1996, moving into education as a faculty member at NIFT, New Delhi. Her time spent here was where she understood that education in design and its future is imperative. After NIFT, she went on to being visiting faculty at NID and Pearl Academy. So realizing the need for this promotion of indigenous research and bringing it closer to interested people, she, along with many like-minded people, set up TCRC, that's the Textiles and Clothing Research Center, New Delhi. And she's secretary of it as of now. She has a blog which you can all, read. This is www.costumetextilesandfashion.blogspot.com. And she has written a large number of papers which you can find in glasgowacademia.edu and also in sahapedia.org. She is currently the Dean of Design Faculty of Rajasthan Skills University and has been nominated a member of CII's National Committee on Design 2019. Dr. Tulika Gupta is committed to uplifting and promoting crafts and design research in India. And I really wanted to do this, taking one aspect of your particular expertise and discussing it before I really get on to introducing the next panelist. But I think since I've, digressed from that schedule, I may as well introduce Kirti Rato. I suppose she's one of our youngest here. And she is interesting to the extent that she is not an institutionalized designer. She has found her own space and she's found her own set of rules and her mentorship. Where is Kirti? I can't see her. Yes, okay. So, well, this is what she says of herself: hardworking and passionate. Kirti Rato has an experience in customized, tailor-made clothes for men. That's very interesting, very tough. So she has a brand name called Kirti Rato and has a studio in the posh locality of Seasteam. Now, the studio has high-tech manufacturing units with latest machines and experienced workforce. And she believes in innovative technique and excellent design skills acquired through exclusive workmanship. She's the only female designer for menswear in the fashion industry. She has showcased her creations at national and international platforms, which we will soon get to know. And she has worked with eco-friendly organic fabric, which can be worn at all seasons. Moreover, she's not only a fashion designer, but she's a dedicated social activist and believes in giving back to the society. Well, she's launched her creative collection 7 years ago, and commerce has been growing progressively for Kirti. She has emerged as one of with her own signature brands. Is there some? Is it okay? Yeah. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Kirti Rathod.
Okay. Okay. So she has a mix of architectural shifts. Now this is interesting, with idiosyncratic prints on luxurious fabrics like linen, silk, and vibrant colors. And her debut in year 2012 with a second-hand machine on an installment with one tailor in her garage was her humble beginnings. And Yeah, she's also got a kids collection going. She's truly self-made and she has never studied fashion design. And she's gone on to explain how she left NIFT, got married, but she had the motivation to get back with the signature line. So this is an interesting aspect to Kirti. And she's developed this Indian design sensibility, which we will also get to know during the course of conversation. Works with Rajasthan's colorful fabrics and Kashmir embroidery. It's also tried to promote the forgotten Indian traditional and embroidery and craft like naturally dyed block prints, Sanganeri prints, Dabu prints, etc. Iron dye. And she appeals to people to support the state by buying this beautiful craft, and has always tried to give a makeover to the Western style by adding Indian grace to this. And her mission and vision is what she says is she wants to have this outreach towards the Western world, Middle East and Europe, and to craft best fashion designers and creative minds from India who can unite the worlds through color. That's Kirti Rathore for you. So I really have a couple of, I have a kind of delineation of the schedule today. It's really nothing to, feel that we are overly structured. But as I said, it's primarily a conversation that we would like to get to know how these experts think. So I think I would address the first one to Tulika. Because she has done a lot of research into crafts and can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Forward. Need the topic.
Yeah. So, what's interesting about Tulika? Very keen that when you were in Glasgow, you actually had a thesis on the influence of British rule on elite Indian menswear. And you talked of the birth of the Shetwani. And I actually read your thesis. I thought that was really fascinating. Can you really tell us about how these varied layers of history actually can bring about the basis for a kind of thinking with today's sensibilities
Prashant, one slide back.
Really talking about? So can you give us some highlights on this research that you did? And have you traced this up till today, beyond, maybe during the modern traditional era to now? Yeah. I think she's muted.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. And the question is that regarding the Sherwani. So let me tell you, when I started researching, the whole idea came to me because I used to teach fashion history at NIFT. And I thought we have books and books of Western fashion history. And when we look at our own history, in terms of clothing, we have very few books, and those are also not by academics and researchers. They were by people either from a different field who do not have understanding of cutting and tailoring, or from drama, from the field of drama. Some of the best books, research was done by people who wanted to create costumes. So, I just had this urge that I really wanted to understand how did it all began. And so, like a typical Indian, I wanted to start from Harappa. But when I started looking there, it became very difficult due to lack of data. And then in India, it was very difficult to do this research because a lot of people felt that, there is no specific area called dress history. And that is why I had to look westward. And then when I went to different universities in the West also, and discussed with them that I want to, study the influence on Indian clothing. That is when I met one of the very senior person in this field, and she was in Bristol. And she said, really? Do you think India pe koi asar hua hai bahar ke logon ka? मुझे तो लगता है इंडियन क्लोथिंग, इंडियन टेक्सटाइल्स ने पूरी दुनिया पे असर किया है. I said, of course, इंडियन टेक्सटाइल्स ने पूरी दुनिया पे असर किया है, इसलिए किताबें सिर्फ इंडियन टेक्सटाइल्स की हैं. इंडियन क्लोथिंग के स्टेक होल्डर्स तो हम हैं. People like me growing up, wearing skirts, speaking in English and thinking we are Indian. So who are we? And, what was it that began all this change? So that is how slowly then, it led to influence of British rule on Indian clothing for the simple reason that there was a lot of data available about the Mughals. So from Mughals to how did we change to now? And data on Mughals was thanks to the British. There was a lot of information there. And thanks to the Mughals themselves who had written a lot of books, at least data was there. So that's how I studied this. And while doing research, first year में कोई plan नहीं था PhD के कि it will only be menswear or it will only be sherwani. But and sherwani, किसी से भी बात करो तो सोचते थे मुगल डिजाइन है, मुगल कॉस्ट्यूम है, इस तरह की एक धारणा बनी हुई थी. But when I researched and when I found, I said, of course, this garment never exists in any miniature painting. We look at so many miniature paintings. So when did this come about? And when I discussed this with Francis, who was my supervisor, and with Rosemary Krill, who was at Victoria Albert Museum, they said that this is really a fascinating thought. Why don't you just take this up and work with this as your thesis? So it was a little difficult to begin with because there was no typical methodology to study it. So I had to look for a methodology to understand. But it was really interesting to study how it came about, and I could pin down the 1880s. Ki tab shuru hua. And today, of course, it continues. But the style has changed a lot. In terms that today the cut and construction of a sherwani is more like a kurta, but it's just, other than the sherwani that the president wears, that's completely typical sherwani, or some of the politicians wear. Other than that, the ones worn for shadis and marriages today are, just, you can buy them. They're really cheap versions of a sherwani, and they have a lot of machine embroidery. So yeah, things have changed, and it is very fascinating. Soon a book will be out on that because a publisher wanted to write a book on that. So with whatever little time at hand I had, I've sort of converted into a book. I hope it comes out soon. So yeah, that is what it is.
Yeah. So tell us one garment that has really made this transformation in modern history, apart from the sherwani. Have you seen any other Indian garment that has, or in your opinion, that has been, taken such massive transformation?
Oh yes, definitely. Women's wear, which I didn't write about because I had done a lot of research already on women's wear. But pinning down as Indian becomes very difficult in women's wear because it's very regional. So one thing that has come up is the introduction of the petticoat and the blouse. The petticoat itself is an English word. It means a small coat, a small covering, which used to be worn under the gowns by the British and the French. And Indians just wore the sari in many different ways, So, so the three terms, blouse is an English term, petticoat is an English term, and fall, जो साड़ी में नीचे लगाते हैं जिससे fall बने, वो सब English terms हैं. वो सब changes ऐसे हुए हैं, but we feel that कब से चल रहा है? Because what I realized while doing research is मेमोरी सिर्फ 2 generations तक चलती है, उसके बाद वो हिस्ट्री हो जाता है. मतलब अगर हमारे बच्चों के बच्चे देखेंगे तो वो शायद सोचेंगे मैकडॉनल्ड्स हमेशा से इंडियन था, आलू टिक्की बर्गर में ऐसा क्या है जो बाहर से आया था. मतलब सो इट इज ओनली 2 generations the memory lasts, 2 to 3 generations.
So do you think I think it would be nice to see your presentation and then take on further questions from here. Yeah, thanks.
And I'll try and keep it short because we have limited time. So because I was asked to talk about Indian design, I didn't take it into clothing or something. So I'll quickly go through my presentation.
No problem. I actually, diverted this because I was intrigued by your PhD topic on the sherwani. And I thought that may give some food for thought for Kirti also when I come to her. But that's fine. I mean, you can just go ahead with your
presentation. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll quickly go through the first slide. Indian, I just love this word because I am an Indian. So what do we understand by Indian design? There is so much to it. the more I research, the more I realize these basic things, that our design is functional. It truly is. Even if I go back to the sherwani with which we were talking about, it's not like the British coat. It's not like the frock coat. We've picked up elements on the shoulder panel, etc., which make it very structured. But then down below, it's so comfortable you can sit on the floor, because we used to sit on the floor. So it's not so tight that you need a chair to sit. If you look at the pajama, it has all the comfort level to sit on the floor. So Indian design is very functional. It's sustainable. And I can give you an example of sustainable. I was traveling with a group of foreign people, and there was a woman who was pregnant. She couldn't fit into her trousers. And I told her, ye meri salwar le lo, kisi bhi size ko fit ho sakti hai. So it's very sustainable. It's very functional. It's aesthetically pleasing. And I would say something for Indian design, it is hand done. It has expression, inspiration. It fosters creativity. And it is designed to satisfy a particular need. What is your need? You want to wear this garment, or you want to cook food in a particular manner, whatever. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'll go quickly from here. And what I think is art is an integral part of Indian design. Dividing our sensibility into art, craft, and design is not a very correct way. I think it's a very foreign way of looking. For us, Indian design has art, craft, everything as a part of it. How handcrafting is there, it's art, it's everything into one. I mean, like I said, of course, I can go on and on, but I'll move to the next slide to show the example. I think most of us are aware of this report of Charles and Ray Eames, especially the designers at NID and so many other people. And I really love what he has said, and I've been going over it again and again. Of all the objects we have seen and admired during our visit to India, the lota, that simple vessel of everyday use, stands out as perhaps the greatest and most beautiful. And I'll go to the next slide. And a few of the things I've written here, I will explain it also. And this is from his report only. Now, if you look at this lota, which looks like a very common object to us because we see it everywhere, so we don't really realize how important it is. The first point, I think, is amazing. We transport it on the head, on the hip. You put it anywhere, it fits into the curves of the body, so it can be a matka, it can be a lota. The shape is this. And I think this shape would have been achieved after such a lot of hard work, because it is balanced, there's a particular, khali hai to bhi balanced hai, bhara hua hai to bhi balanced hai. And I think it's amazing. Bhare hue koi glass ko aap glass ke upar nahi rakh sakte, bhare hue ye lote ko aap ek ke upar ek rakh sakte ho. It fits in so beautifully well. Fluid dynamics of the problem, not only when pouring, when filling, cleaning, complicated motions of the head, it withstands when you're traveling. It's sculpted so well. And what I think is, agar ye gir bhi jata hai, तो इसमें से इतना पानी नहीं गिरता जितना उसके अंदर होता है, because the way it falls down, it's really, you can research it and you can see it's very interesting. इसका opening छोटा है और volume जो इसके अंदर आ सकता है वो बहुत बड़ा है. And so I think it's really amazing. I've visited a few archaeological sites and I've seen some of these things come out, and I feel ये Indian design है, इसको हम छोड़ते जा रहे हैं. I mean, we have to really revisit it, and for that we have to revive our Indian languages to understand what was written at that point in time. इसका छोटा example कुल्हड़ type है. There has no extra handle like in the cup or a mug, and you can still hold it from the neck and you can drink it. गरम नहीं लगता है. So I think this is Indian design. This is an amazing way. And this is one object. And why I've chosen this object is because it comes from the Americans themselves who've come here to set up a school called NID. And then I will quickly talk about pillars of Indian design. The pillars are science, knowledge of craft, knowledge of design. We have these two books, SHILP, SHASTRA and VASTU SHASTRA. I shouldn't even call them books, they are Shastras. SHILP is a very interesting word. So IICD is also called Bharatiya SHILP Sansthan. In English, we call it Indian Institute of Craft and Design. So two words, craft and design put together, SHILP. And so it's a SHILP Shastra is a Shastra, is a science of design, I must say, science of art, craft and design. Similarly, Vastu Shastra, which is the science of designing living spaces. I sincerely feel if we start teaching this to our students, there'll be a lot of huge amount of transformation in the next 10 years or so. Because SHILP Shastra is the science of art, craft, and design. Science is a pillar which tells us about knowledge of different materials, the kind of proportions that we should use them in, how to create, what to create. Of course, technology, tools, skills, practices, techniques, which were mastered over the years. And what I find beautiful is there is no name of, for everything, there is no name ki ye isne hi banaya hai. Now we are finding out names of people, etc. But what is important is things, research, that is important. People are, it's not like every painting has to have a name. It is called a painting of this group of people. So I find that really beautiful in India. It's a folk culture. It's a group effort. Then a craft and design, obviously, ability to think and problem solving ability. Like I gave the example of a salwar. So it's a problem solving ability. You can just vary the size. Vastu Shastra, of course, all of the architects would know much better than me. But I would still like to talk about it because it's a science of designing our dwellings. That is also science and how to design where you live. Which room is to be constructed, how and why. Somewhere I read, I couldn't remember where I read, and that is why I have not put it here. I really want to write, I wanted to write about it, about why the chauka is called a chauka, which is the kitchen. So somewhere I read, because it used to be square, and there would be sun which would fall, and somehow, I don't know, the architects would definitely know it better, but I've just read this somewhere and I just can't, it's not coming back to me, that is the place where heat is, can be maximum or something to that effect. I'm not really sure whether it's right or not, but I just thought I'll mention it. So I think which room is to be constructed, how, etc. And we have such brilliant architects with us who can talk more about it, but I'll quickly just pass to the next slide. So since I was to have 10 minutes, I didn't really want to overstep as I'd been talking about the Sherwani. So I just want to quickly finish with it. So thank you. And if there are any questions, I'm willing to answer.
So the Sherwani was really my intrigue. I actually digressed from it because I really wanted you to talk about how histories and our traditions have actually contributed to the learning of our craft techniques for today, and especially since you're into academics, how you translate this into your academic schedules.
Thank you. I think sorry, I'll just say one thing since you mentioned that again. What I see is how beautifully we also design our traditions, like Sherwani was not there 150 years ago. But on the eve of independence, when we were to release the constitution on the 26th of January, before that there's a letter by the president addressed to the Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, a letter by our president saying, what should I wear? Should I wear the Sherwani? Because it's neutral. It doesn't give class barriers. It doesn't tell you're a Hindu or Muslim or whatever. So I think this is how we design our traditions also. So design in an Indian context, there is so much to explore. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, that's interesting. I think I'll pass on the next question to Anu Mridul. Anu, you've done a lot of research into the past histories, into the architectural traditions, into practices, our building craft. How does this actually influence your way of thinking, and how have you taken this forward? You can do what you wish. You would like to set a context to it and then show us your presentation, or you'd like to talk about it and then show it to us through, demonstrate through your presentation. It's entirely up to you.
What you're asking me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You've already said enough about me, so without much ado, I'll start with the hope that there are a lot of students today. How can I start my presentation? Share, okay, I'll share it. Yeah.
All right, okay.
Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Trying to deny.
In the first instance, the term design Indianized seems more of an idea or a concept than any particular style, because India has a rich repository of an inexhaustible variety of architectural designs, design traditions, and heritage. For initiating a discourse on design Indianized, one has to first reverse the order and understand what this term actually means. What all does it comprise of? Be able to design in an Indianized manner. So my understanding is that the term Indian design is addressing contemporary and future designs in India, informed by Indian design traditions and the combined repository of socio-cultural, art and architectural heritage. However, it must be well borne in mind that Indian design is a collective of innumerable traditional knowledge systems from multiple locales set in India's 6 climatic zones, varied geographical and geological zones, contextualized by politics, society, vocations, and culture of the respective locations. The common man used common sense to devise means and methods to manage temperature, natural light, and water, basically the 5 elements, without causing their degradation or comfortable conditions for living that a body of knowledge got built. Time, the common sense born knowledge system kept enlarging, which with use and refinement over centuries and generations became tradition. So there are a few confusions we need to clear. We must first understand that tradition must not be confused with something antiquated. Tradition is a dynamic system of knowledge steeped in respective local ethos that keeps updating and resetting through innovation and adaptation, continuously provide environment-friendly solutions for sustainable creation. Second, the Indian designs and the traditions are not just about the historic language, motifs, styles, or ornamentation, as you see on the screen. First, there's no denying the importance of this aspect. Identity of a place and its culture is important, and any creation must surely be seen to be belonging to the place where it stands. But the soul comes from using the cauldron of traditional knowledge system to create buildings, providing comfort conditions without harming our ecosystem, not just in appearance, but in spirit too, and more importantly so. So it must be appreciated that the traditional practices of one place cannot necessarily apply to another. Vernacularity changes dramatically within a region and state. Let's take a closer look at Jaisalmer and Jodhpur. Both belong to the same climatic zone. The architectural heritage of Jaisalmer is so vastly different from that of Jodhpur, both being in Marwar region. And are so hugely different from those of Navalgarh and Jaipur. Both are in the same region of Shekhawati, Rajasthan. All of these are in Rajasthan, but all different in style, materiality, and innate designs driven by their material, socio-political, and cultural heritage. Diversity comes from materiality as well. Like for different stones, their properties are different. Jaisalmer stone, first one on the left, is softer. Jodhpur stone is harder. And they require different strokes and hammering strengths. In my experience, I've found that the masons and the craftsmen of Jodhpur are not very adept at working on Jaisalmer stone and vice versa. And this difference becomes starker dealing with marble, which is a much softer stone. And design Indianized on a particular site comes from practicing the best practices of that locale, with innovations congruent to or in keeping with the tangible and intangible heritage of the place. For the sake of example, there are 2 projects that I'm illustrating here. On the left is an imaginary multi-story building set in, say Gurgaon, with fenestrations rendering of Jaisalmer style. Even though it has a facade that is Indian, it is completely out of context. It uses no vernacular solutions of its place for building, operation, and performance. It is only for effect, which turns out to be incongruent and lacks the spirit, even though seemingly Indian. On the other side is Hotel Uday Vilas, Udaipur, built by Mission Parul a few years back, designed using the vernacular knowledge system, using local craftsmen. Their form is wedded to the local ethos in every aspect. This is truly a modern building with traditional values, leisure and spirit. In subsequent slides, I will demonstrate how the traditional knowledge systems of a place can be contemporized by innovation and refurbishment create sustainable buildings with traditional values and local context, but not necessarily with traditional looking forms and ornamentation. Projects set 2 decades apart. One was built in 1989 and the other in 2009. Both are in arid region. I am showing these 2 slides. One is Jaisalmer, from where we've taken inspiration. The other is a Bawdi in Jaipur. I think about 300 or 400 year old Bawdi. This first is a single family residence in Jaipur, set in a place where there is scorching sunlight, temperature soaring to touch 50 degrees centigrade, dust-laden hot winds, and erratic electricity supply, plus the high energy cost for the client. This is the section of one of the Havelis of Jaisalmer, from where we have taken a lot of lessons. Almost all the houses had only the front wall exposed, and the other 3 walls were shared with adjoining houses, so that the heat gain from these walls would be zero. Anyway, I think I'll continue with that.
But we can see the annotation.
Never mind. Can you see the house?
No. I can see.
Okay. So I'll use this. I'm more comfortable. The roof which gains the maximum heat. That's a very thick mass. So, the heat is maximum on the roof. So they have what stone putty roof with a lot of lime mortar and lime concrete on top. And as you can see, this is the courtyard where because of the diurnal variation in temperature, cold air settles in and then keeps seeping throughout the day over here. And it's shaded throughout almost for the entire part of the day. And this is from where the maximum light and ventilation is sought. Because you see, the external air that you have would contain a lot of heat and it would contain a lot of dust. And vertical ventilation is not going to allow dust to come in. And the external facades would have, very intricate jali. So they would kind of break up the sunlight which would come in and also filter the dust-laden air. So this is how a desert house is normally constructed. But whenever I used to visit these houses, the one thing that struck me most were the basements. The basements were the places, they were used only for storage, and people would hardly visit those basements. But I found that they were exceptionally cool in summers and fairly warm in winters. And I wondered, what if this space is converted into a habitable space, properly lit and ventilated, but by retaining the properties of cool interiors of the traditional underground stores. And that gave the idea of designing an earth-sheltered habitable house. Very simple design, where the family lounge, the drawing room, and the guest bedroom, they are all on the ground floor with the kitchen and all. But what we have done is we have sunk the main bedrooms in the basement. And we have taken a courtyard all the way down into the basement. You can see the section. The master bedroom and the other bedroom that is there, which are in the basement. Now the problem would be, normally you would light it up with say ventilators, but what we have done is we have taken a courtyard over here, and from here we are admitting a lot of cool ventilation inside, because it is deep, well shaded also, so you have only reflected sunlight. And on the outer facade, what we have done is we have given again jalis, and I'll explain to you how these jalis are, because we could not have afforded very, very expensive fenestration. So we just created something on site from waste material. So now if you can see the section and how we've taken lessons from it. Taken the courtyard, we've inserted a courtyard here. Now the terrace used to be a thick mass here. We could not have created a thick mass. So what we have done is we've put earthen pots. If you can see in this picture down below, there are earthen pots, they are packed with lime mortar, and then there's similar done behind. So it becomes fairly thick. And then you don't need any fall ceiling or anything. And you are taking care of heat coming from outside. Because this courtyard is there. Basement, we have again, instead of making a store out of it, we have made bedrooms out of it. And jali, normally it's very intricately done. But what actually mattered about jali is the depth of the jali vis-a-vis the openings is what you have to control. What is done here, we have taken larger ones, but then we have taken larger pieces of stone. This acts perfectly as a jari. It gives a sun-free and dust-free light. What we got built was a highly sustainable, energy-efficient desert house by building on the traditional best practices. It was a simple-looking house made of local materials without the traditional type of arches, brackets, etc., typical of the local style. Yet it came out to be truly vernacular in function and spirit. I forgot to mention, and I'll go back, is that the walls which used to be otherwise thick in the traditional houses, we could not have done that. Now would we have walls which we could share so that they become less so that they are not exposed to sunlight. So what we did was we created cavity walls. And we used material which is normally used for roofs. Stone slabs is what we used over there. See in this picture. And we used cavity walls. So cavity walls took care of any ambient heat penetrating inside. Second project is a 21st century step well, a huge rainwater harvesting structure built by contemporizing ancient water buildings. With the first one and the second one, I think I'm answering what Shamini asked. The year 2003, a promoter from Mumbai chose one of the most barren tilak in Jaipur on the foothills of the famed Umaid Bhawan Palace for developing a new housing township, Umaid Heritage, for over 400 houses. There's a long, narrow stretch of 2 kilometers. Jodhpur was and still is already water stressed. So the question was how to create a conducive microenvironment, a township to flourish on a site which had zero greens and no water. This is an image of the site when work had just been initiated. Barren landscape on a red sandstone hill, not a single tree, very low water table and having not fit for consumption sub-ground water. Make it an environmentally viable venture, it was imperative to create a dense green cover and ensure continuous supply of water for its sustenance. In a water-scarce region with highly restricted state-supplied water and forever dipping groundwater tables, there was no chance of getting water for developing a thick verdure for the township. In fact, it would have been a luxury given the circumstances. The only salvation was in creating one's own resource, conserving rainwater by ancient wisdom. And that is how the idea of creating a new water harvesting building terminated. This is one of the many Bawdis that grew up sea. This again is Bawdi built in year 1559 AD. Bawdis are unidirectional elongated wells which taps to access water at varying levels. Retaining walls of these Bawdis are thick and straight, held together with masonry trebated frames. Now, this is something which we did not find that we could do easily. And one of the constraints in construction of new Bawdi was the retaining walls. The traditional Bawdis had retaining walls which would be as thick as 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, depending on the depth. And they were made with larger pieces of stone, with ashlar, or even if they were blocks, they were very deep blocks. And for this new one, ashlar would have made it prohibitively expensive. Moreover, the required width at bottom turned out to be 7 feet on either side. This would take up too much space, leaving less for water. It was then that what we thought was, we decided to study walls, and we have appended the walls, and we have created walls out of walls. So these are the walls we have kind of appended, and then they are just about 2.5 feet thick, not more than that, all the way down. And they are held together, the opposite walls are held together with a beam and pillar structure, trebated structure. So once we created this module, then we built about 14 such modules, one joined to the other. And this is about 750 feet long to store about 1.75 million liters of water, about 30 feet in width. Average width is 30 feet. Each bay is about 46 feet long. And towards the end, these arcuated things, they terminate into a well kind of structure. It kind of closes the structure on this side. The structure descends about 5 stories below ground level. A network of stormwater drains converge on either side of the Bawdi. You have water coming from here, water coming from here. And this is the lowest portion on the entire township site. So we could have water from everywhere. about the structure, the construction part of it. The architecture of the Baudi is truly indigenous. Principal material of construction, this Baudi is all sourced from the site. You see, this is the hillock where we have built. This is the overburden which we removed. We converted into principal material of construction. And this is what we excavated for the Baudi. And all the excavation we have used for undulate, taking planes from the undulating site that we had. It was a craggy site. And all the waste material that we got, either from quarrying or when we were shaping stone, they've been used for heartings, infills, and backfills. So ultimately what you have over here is, everything that you've removed, you have reused. Geologically, completely balanced. Whatever earth work you did here, you have used in reclaiming the land. And whatever stone you've taken away from here, you put into the Baudi. And because the site was same, the transportation cost was negligible. So in a way, this project has turned out to be almost negligible carbon footprint. Another important aspect is that in the construction of the step well, most of the work from extraction of stone to masonry was done mostly manually. It is imperative to sustain traditional crafts and, more importantly, the craftsmen. The stone-abundant regions like Jaipur and Jaisalmer, roofing is traditionally done with long and heavy stone slabs. A specialized skill and strength is required to lift, carry and place in position these slabs for roof at various heights. The skilled masons trained and adapted this skill are called chawadiyas. Today, because of the extensive use of RCC roofing, this breed of skilled people is becoming extinct. But we made sure that these skilled craftsmen are employed for lifting and placing larger components of beams, pillars and slabs and copings with the aid of chain and wooden struts. My apologies that this is not a good picture. Construction of this step well is especially significant as it is built of locally available natural building material built by local craftsmen to collect the natural resources of rainwater, harnessed by gravity, creating an eco-friendly structure, celebrating traditional wisdom. So we can notice that even in its operation and maintenance, it's almost a negligible carbon footprint project. There are no carbon emissions. In fact, the only place where we are using artificial energy is in drawing water from it. And for that also we've converted our pumps into solar pumps. Baudi is also a community space for people to gather and celebrate, contemporizing the socio-cultural ethos of the intimate connect that the community had with vernacular water buildings. The before and after pictures bear testimony to the environmental and ecological transformation such projects can effect, from barren to lush green. This was a picture we started the project, and this is the picture today. And all this water comes from this Baudi. You're not buying any water from the government, nor does the government have water. And of course, our water tables are very, very low, so we cannot extract water from aquifers. Finally, creation of the step well in 21st century demonstrates that such indigenous water bodies, based on traditional knowledge systems, are still viable architecturally and financially, and that it is possible to build and expand the water heritage of the country. Thank you, Shamini. Can't hear you.
Really switching. Thanks a lot. So you answered all my questions, and we may as well say goodbye and go back home.
Okay.
But we have an interesting youngster with us, the young designer Kirti Rato.
Yes.
We'll go on. We'll come back to our question answers on these other formats. But Kirti, you will be considered for my section and segment on Brand India. So I find Kirti a bit of a rebel. Yeah, and I think that's good, isn't it? So
yeah.
I also think probably you are lucky that you don't have that institutionalized training which gives a certain element of caution for many of us, not all of us. Many of us.
Yes.
Okay. So you made a very bold statement. So through your presentation, I'd like you to touch upon that. You have said, and you have to explain why you said this. Fashion is a form of ugliness so intolerable that we have to alter it every 6 months.
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Actually, to live up to the new designs, you have to every 6 months alter the designs which are there.
I see. Okay, I'll come to that. We'll take you through your presentation, and yes. Okay. Are you ready with your presentation? So are you ready for this presentation? Steve?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
So so this is like how you know that I'm a menswear designer, but for the first time we tried on to the female wear as well, and we did this what you can see, a lehenga and a sherwani. So there was a Indianized version of that, like Indo-Western version of that Indianized lehenga. So it's a fish cut lehenga, and like again what you can see here on the ramp, these are gowns which are again in an Indianized way. Like if you can see a lot of embroidery on that gown which is there, which Sheba is wearing, and of course Bhagyashree also. So you can see that it has a princess like Western element to it, but yet they are Indianized version.
Ma'am, please unmute your microphone.
Yeah, I have unmuted me. Okay, so now here again, if you can see this sherwani which Manish Paul is wearing, so it's again an Indo-Western sherwani where we've given a lot of Kashmiri embroidery on the placket, and to give it a little color element, because I belong to Rajasthan and I believe in taking colors from Rajasthan. So we've given inside the placket, we've given a multicolored layer of fabric to enhance that Indianized version. And of course, here again, where you can see this contemporary design of Maharaja and Maharani standing in the picture, here you can see that traditional hand embroidery from Rajasthan, which has been done on the lehenga, which is again a Rajput era, which is like kurti kanchli, where I'm sure everyone knows what is kurti kanchli lehenga from Rajasthan. So here again we've given an Indian element to the design to portray our contemporary design. And the right slide, what you see on my right, where I'm dressing up this model over there. So this was again a modern version of an Indian sherwani, where we've done a lot of embroidery. This was a recent showcase of mine in New York, which recently I showcased in New York, and we did a lot of hand embroidery with red and gold color to give again a contemporary design to the Indian embroidery, where you can see that the sherwani, this sherwani is converted into an Indo-Western, and to give it an Indian element, we've added a touch of embroidery, and the placements are in a modernized way. So that's again this one slide where you can see we've done this sherwani where I'm standing with actor Himansh Kohli. So here again, it's a modern version of a sherwani. It's again an Indo-Western, like how I would say that one should always keep the heritage and the Indian element to the outfit, even if you are converting into a modernized way. So here again, you can see we've done an embroidery. It's a machine embroidery, but we've taken an element from Kashmiri embroidery. So here it is the red, and like the florals are from the Kashmiri, like Kashmiri environment, what you see. So we've taken this Kashmiri embroidery into a machine embroidery. And then again, on your right, where you see the Angrakha, which Vikas Gupta is wearing, we've done this Dabu print on the fabric. And we've taken the element from Rajasthan to convert this Angrakha in a modernized version with the Sherwani. How in older days there used to be Sherwanis worn over Angrakhas. So we've taken that same design and we've made this contemporary, you would say a contemporary turned modern design, a little element to a contemporary to create it a modern way. And plus here you can't see the buttons, but we've used the buttons which are with the enabling of our Indian heritage. And peacock, how you know the peacock was any paintings which you see, even in the paintings, if you look up to the paintings from the Kishangarh paintings also, you'll see a lot of peacocks. So we've used a peacock style of embroidery. And even here, if you see on this show which I've done in Lakme, Australia, again the model who's wearing this Sherwani, it's got an element which is again, like I said, it's a peacock inspired embroidery. It's not exactly peacock, but yes, it's a peacock inspired embroidery, and it's handcrafted embroidery what we've taken. I believe that one should always follow the Indianized version, even if you are converting into a modernized way. And of course, here again you can see a bandgala which Arbaz is wearing. So this bandgala is again a hunter jacket, specially designed in the older days of like Rajputanas. So here again we converted that modernized bandgala which used to be in Rajputana. And you come up to the, again we come up to this another slide where Sangeeta Ghosh is wearing this embroidered lehenga. So if you can see the embroidery, again we've taken from the heritage motifs which used to be there in all these heritage buildings and heritage paintings. Like I take a lot of inspiration from the Kishangarh Shaili painting, where you get a lot of these florals, and even in the Mughal paintings where these motifs are there. So you pick up these motifs, even if you are doing a modernized version, we take the element from the heritage and then we do it in a modernized way. Here, I'm wearing this Sherwani. That's again, I take a lot of inspiration from Banaras. So we follow the Banaras weavers, and we take a lot of these what you would say fabrics from Banaras, which are hand woven. And if you can see, I'm sure you won't be able to see the clear version of that picture because it's got a lot of colors into that. So even in weaves, they have used a lot of colors with the motifs. So again, like I would say, and then this left where you see a model wearing this salwar kameez with a plazo. So this is again I would say Indo-Western, how salwar kameezes used to be there in older times. And it actually came from Punjab. And then how it converted into a modernized version by giving up plazos on the bottoms. And then we've taken an element of Gujarat by using mirror work on the kurta. So yes, these are the slides which again here when you can see the models wearing a lot of kurtas. So kurta was again like how Sherwani got converted into kurta. Easy to wear outfit was like in a daily basis how men used to feel comfortable in their home wearing kurta. So this is a modern version of kurta, like how kurtas turned into be in such a way that even the weddings now they are wanting to wear kurtas with a little element of embroidery into it, or little element of different kind of fabric used with the kurta structure. So here, like you can see the other slide, which is again a dabu print and a tie and dye. I did this collection for the kids, and this was a collection showcased in Vietnam, where I was the only designer from India who was invited for India Asia Kids Fashion Week. So I wanted some Indian element to be showcased there. So what I did was I used this fabric, modal silk, and on modal silk we did a lot of these tie and dye prints, tie and dye marble prints. So this was again where I picked up, if you can see the background has that lot of colors. This is a mosque from Iran which has this background. So we took all these colors into the garments. The inspiration came for the colors of tie and dye from that Mughal era, from the Iran mosque, and that is how the colors were used. So yes, I think I've explained everything over here.
Yes,
but
yes. Yeah. And so really, I mean, if I'm looking at brand Kirti Rato, so what were the challenges you faced in actually, moving from Jaipur into this world outside? Yeah. So can you just tell our participants, what really was were the challenges?
It was initially, yes, Shamli ma'am, how I started. I started from a garage with one old sewing machine, and challenges were there. Yes, because I belong to a Rajput family where women were not allowed to work outside. So that was a big challenge for me to altogether go into a menswear. So initially, I used to have a lot of negative comments, and but like you said, I was a rebel. So I just went into that thing that I just don't want to have a life which has no meaning to it, which has no name to it, and plus I wanted to promote my heritage and whatever ideas used to come, seeing all this heritage, a rich heritage which we belong to. So I wanted to take all those ideas and I wanted to go out, and there were a lot of challenges. I used to get a lot of negative comments, like I said. And yes.
Did you feel you had to package yourself in a manner that had, was easy to accept? Or it was just your clothes, your techniques that did the talking? Or did you have a mentor? What was it?
Yes.
Actually, into this international, platform, or the platforms of, the international ramps, and so what really forayed you into all that? How did you get to that position?
Actually, my sensibility of the Indianness into my garments, like I do a lot of my work with embroidery, and that is what attracted people internationally. And like recently when I showcased in New York, Couture New York Fashion Week, I took a collection which was like not even Indian, not even Western. So I showcased a collection which was on capes and with a lot of hand embroidery, with a lot of like velvet fabric used to be used in older days. So how velvet came into fashion, and a lot of Mughal clothing used to have velvet in their garments. A lot of like Rajputania used to have velvet in their garments. So I I revived that fabric and made cape collection with a lot of hand embroidery into it. And that is what I think people appreciated there, and they were seeing altogether a different style of capes.
Right.
That
so
capes had an Indian version to it.
Yes. Kirti, I'll have to, wrap this up a little bit. I think we've gone beyond time. I still had a lot of questions to ask, but I think thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Kirti, Anu Mridul, thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Abhishek if he has time for some questions, but thank you so much. And thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. It was a beautiful presentation by everyone. We would like to show some pics of Sir, Ma'am, which is like working from home. These are the pics of panelists. The Anu Sir relaxing on sofa. PT Ma'am making a mask for the doctor. And Tulika Ma'am taking a webinar. So, thank you everyone for such beautiful insights. We have such beautiful presentation. Thanks Shamini Ma'am for crafting such sub-theme, and Tulika Ma'am for beautiful science behind Lota and the story of Sherwani, and it was really interesting. Anu Sir, I was really impressed by the Birkha Bawri and as a case study, lot of climatic aspects and vernacular architecture and ecological transformation, use of microclimate. It was very, very, what I should say, knowledgeable, and we had a lot of insights from Anu Sir. Thank you, sir. Katie Ma'am, you are an inspiration, you are a rebel. Your flamboyance is really bewitching. Such inspiration for colors, motifs, and your Indo-Western style embroidery, talking about tie-dye prints, etc. So all very inspirational. Thank you very much. Now, if there is any question from the audience, I would request audience if there is any question. So I don't think so. I would request Prashant sir for presenting digital mementos to our panelists. I request Prashant sir, please share digital mementos. Prashant sir, you there?
Shamini ma'am, your wait is over.
My what is over?
You wait. You were waiting for that.
No. I don't know. Oh, okay, this is what we were talking about.
Oh, this is Anu sir. Thank you, Anu sir.
Yeah, that's.
He made this memento for you.
This is so wonderful. This is really nice.
In this corona situation, we are also innovating things.
Right.
Very nice.
Thanks.
So please virtually receive it.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Tulika ma'am.
I cannot see the screen over there.
Thank you. This is really, really sweet and very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful, yeah. Very
thoughtful.
nice.
Thank you so much.
And that's for PT ma'am.
You can see now the screen.
Ma'am, can you see your memento?
I think she's switched off somewhere.
No, I cannot see the memento. I am seeing a blank screen over there.
Because there is some net issues from your side. We'll send you the memento on your WhatsApp.
Okay.
That's nice. Thank you for your presence as a panelist.
Thank you. This is really sweet, very nice. Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you, Shamini ji, for such a wonderful coordination.
Thank you.
And I request Shweta ma'am for a few words at the end and take a digital selfie. Ma'am, please.
I
you have to take it this way.
I don't know who this SHANKAR is. Abhishek, I keep telling you this.
Sorry, ma'am.
It was a real mesmerizing session, friends. I mean,
there's one question from ma'am. I want to ask you that how you design any dress or what is your design process? I take inspiration from the nature. From the nature and the heritage.
Yeah, there's a question there. Yes.
Yeah. How you design in dress and what is your design process?
I take inspiration from the nature.
Okay.
Okay. I request everyone to switch on their webcam.
And we do a lot of R&D. Should I type it here?
No, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. Okay, so we do a lot of R&D on I take a lot of inspiration from the nature and the architecture which is there. Like I was inspired when Mridul sir was talking about the Baudis and all. So we take a lot of inspiration architecture and the nature which is there. And then we do a lot of R&D on that. And then we do a sketching. And then after the sketches, we think about the process of the fabric which will be used for that garment. And then different styles of fabrics, what is the process of for what that garment is being used, for what kind of function it is being used, for what kind of atmosphere will be there, what kind of weather will be there while wearing this garment.
Kitty ma'am, I need to stop you for a minute. Can everyone please say cheese for a digital selfie?